Thank you, Brendan, and thanks to everyone who made a presentation. I have had the good fortune of being along this journey of SRFSI for a decade. And today I feel very proud of what we have achieved and the partnerships we have formed, friends for life, we have formed. Now, I don't think you want to hear me for too long, but I would like first to give the reviewers the chance to ask questions, reviews of SRFSI, and then the reviewers of ACR-STIP if they wish to. Uh, Professor Hamid, would you like to make any comments or? If Professor Hamid is having trouble, Ranjita, would you like to go?
Yeah, Kuhu, but I think Manohar also said in the chat she has some, so I'd like her to go first.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Hello, Ranjita. Yes. Hello, Kuhu. Thank you so much. I could not see the hand raise button. Thank you so much for really. Hello, Professor. Yeah, I have a few queries. First of all, thank you so much for laying out the partnership and this is impact and lesson learned. I have two general observation and question, also curiosity. In terms of whenever we say pharma, which pharma, our EGB is very much diverse in terms of socioeconomic, gender, class, ethnicity. So whether survey and also last page of survey did consider a bit of reflecting who who are who are we reaching out in terms of scaling, in terms of making pharma very much capable, skill, informed. So did we have some sort of reflection, any paper that we can learn about this intersectionality of pharma or not? This is one question. Another is the partnership. Partners again coming to the socioeconomic culture diversity and also constant, especially for women farmer, women entrepreneur, women professional. No, talking to, interact to, learning. As going through the report, it clearly says that women number are very much high in terms of farm level, and the trial demonstration FGD interaction is high, but when it comes to higher level interaction, engagement, women participation, especially even from farmer level and also professional women, less than 5%. It means that, do you think that there are some sort of linkages in terms of women participation, meaningful participation at all level from farmer to institutional level? If so, did these projects are we think of partnership modality? Did some sort of partnership modality, say working with a partner like a women-led organization or organization that really have a gender social equity expertise? Did we consider this or not? This is second. And third is that institution platform. So what are the mechanism of institution platform to function or operate? Because there is very nice paper on it, really clearly reflect. Is it are you focusing on informal mechanism running platform, innovation platform, or there has been some sort of learning on making it more formal? Formal, informal doesn't matter, but who govern it? How we create enabling environment for women, small order farmer to participate and benefit from innovation platform? This is third question. And fourth question from Bihar, we saw that there has been changes in policy. It will be better if we a bit of unpack what kind of policy changes happened because of the project intervention. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Manohara. Brendan, I just wanted to ask you, do you want to respond, or should we gather all the questions together from the
Maybe
reviewers?
I'll ask if Ranjitha also adds in case they are
Yeah.
similarly relevant, and then we can start to answer.
Yeah, thanks, Brendan. Thanks, Kuhu. Again, we've been reading tens of reports the last few weeks, but it is always such a pleasure to hear directly from the partners, rich experience. And I was just wondering, if only COVID hadn't come in the way, gosh, what would this project have achieved? Amazing. Thank you so much. So just a couple, I have several questions, but then I'll stick to two now and then pass on the other questions for, to be for later. So looking at the research partners and listening to them, they're very key actors in the agricultural innovation system. And I think once the project, ends, it's not just about them taking ownership and adaptation of technologies, but I think they would be the key players in the continuing institutionalization, sustainability, and scaling, the whole policy engagement that needs to happen, that needs to continue to happen. So what kind of capacities of the research partners were built along these lines, not just focused on the technologies? And the other question was, it's again very in as much as there is a certain level of similarity between these contexts in the three countries, they're still different in many ways. And then, as we have seen, the adoption rates or, the engagement institutionalization rates, again, for various reasons have been different. How has the interaction between the three sets of partners in the three countries worked? And how are they learning from each other, looking at the different trajectories? What are they taking from one another and applying, adapting in their own context? Thank you.
Thank you, Ranjitha. Professor Hamid.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Sorry, I was having some problem with my computers, and yeah, I was listening very carefully. I tried to listen, and it's an amazing work, I would say. It's a huge amount of work done, and also a lot of publications. It's a good learning for us. Thank you very much for that. What I believe that the uptake or outscaling of the CASI technology depends very much on the farm machinery availability, and that has been rightly pointed out by presenters also in the reports. So what I believe that there are two things can be considered. One is the ownership. I'm wondering whether ownership should be a major problem. If we have the custom tillage system, for example, if we have that machinery customization, in that case, the ownership may not, I believe ownership may not be a problem, because in Bangladesh, for example, the farm mechanization is advancing in a very speedier way, and it is because that there has been custom tillage system in Bangladesh, and most people do not own tractors or power tillers now. So what I believe that the ownership may not be that much important. As important is the availability of the farm machinery. So farm machinery could have been available much more easily by establishing the custom tillage system, as has been done in Coach Bihar, for example. I compared the adoption of technology between Rangpur and Rajshahi. The Rajshahi technology adoption is very, very low compared with RDRS activities in Rangpur region. Similarly, Rangpur region's adoption rate is almost equal or parallel to Coach Bihar. It might be because of this similar soil, physical, and environmental condition, also sociological factors. But this may also come up with that problem that the soil physical condition in Rajshahi is different. Similarly, it might be similar to Bihar, and I don't know about Nepal, but these things have not been clearly defined. Why it has not been adopted? I agree that exposure was a triggering factor, but other than the exposure, availability of machinery and availability of the what is called credit system should have been important. Number one. The second thing is that the involvement of West Bengal government, for example, of the three presenters mentioned very clearly that the government policy was very much favorable for adoption of technology. But the same case has not happened in Bangladesh. I don't know whether Mamun will agree or not, because Mamun has a very strong, RDRS has a strong build up there. They are institutional build up for more than 50 years. See, that thing is not available in Rajshahi. I think the similar thing might be in other district of Malda district also. So I think this important thing, but the major issue is the government policy. My understanding is the government has taken a very large project and very positive attitude about the farm mechanization, but this SCSI technology has not been articulated adequately in government policy formulation. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think, Brendan, there are a couple of questions. Do you need me to prompt them, or
no, I've written them down. The first thing I would say, we're probably going to have to take a couple of these on notice because there's 15 minutes and I think I counted 8 questions. So we'll try and answer them. I think the first point is, isn't it great when the reviewers ask for information that's coming in the following sessions? That means we've got a good program and we'll be able to answer a lot of those different elements. So I might pick out a few that maybe will not be fully covered, and I also might nominate some people to answer some of these questions. The first one is, when we look to our publications, I think we'll be able to answer about who are we targeting and did we look at subsets of different communities? Because we did start to try and break that down, and some of our publications target specific elements of different communities. So that will come up there. Peter will be presenting the innovation platforms paper as well. So hopefully we'll be able to address some of those things in the science session. In terms of the service sector economy, we definitely in phase 3 of the project, also in the earlier phases, but particularly in phase 3, started to focus our research on some of these elements that we knew were constraints. And one of those was the service sector economy. So trying to unpack where were the constraints in each location around why we weren't seeing more service providers. If this was good for farmers, if demand was being generated, why was the supply side not answering the demand side, or vice versa? So some of that will also come up. In terms of government policy, I think our 5th session, we're hearing from each location as a whole around convergence and sustainability. So I'm hoping that will answer some of those things. We also obviously have our capacity development session, but what might be useful is just asking maybe Mahesh and either Faye or Peter Brown to reflect on the early capacity development, because it was not just CASI focused. There was so much work that was done around how to develop innovation platforms, how to do socioeconomic research, all of these things. So maybe I'll pass to them to answer that one.
Thank you. Can I go first? Is possible? Okay.
Sure.
Thank
you.
Kuhu and then Brenna. First, I would like to come on, Ranjita Puskar questions on policy building and institutional sustainability and all. Ranjita, in this project, we involved from the beginning, from first I highlighted that from bottom up to top approach. So we involved from the, institutions, and then we capacitize not only scientists, but also politicians and then policy leaders. And then we send them in advanced trainings and all. So they are now our branding champions, they are always advertising in governments and all. And if you look at that in most of, geographic areas, due to SRFSI, they got several projects. So like UBKB has got the Excellence Center of Conservation Agriculture project from RKVI, which is very large, and then similarly in Bangladesh, and then in that. So that's in place, and that will be continued. But definitely we are feeling that if we will not continue, it's our efforts, because this project is not a big project, it's very small project for partners and all. But our role was more catalytic roles and facilitating role. So if we will stop our facilitating and catalyzing role, maybe there is a hamper in the further scaling out and then in policy interventions and all. So we want to continue, and that's why we will request that how we can continue these efforts. So whatever we achieved in last 5 to 10 years, that should not go wastage. So we would like to go still there is a institutional capacity already there, but we want to go further, to go in new geographical areas and all. Professor Hamid questioned that to different uptakes in different regions. Definitely there are soil and biophysical parameters, but more on, you rightly mentioned, on the availability and accessibility of the machines, because in India mechanization platform is very strong, and then access of machines from Northwest India to Eastern Magnetic Plains, it's well established network of this manufacturers and all is there. So everywhere machines are there. But we face a huge problem in access of machine in Nepal and in Bangladesh. Not only machine, but post-sale services also. So we are working on that, and hope we will be overcome on that. There is no doubt about the understanding, farmers convince, and then adoptability, and then benefits of that. Everybody is aware and policies are aware. Definitely, yes, a little bit sad, but there is a one part in this government policies, this new mechanization program, CASI is there, but not that much of highlighted as we want. So we want to continue our efforts to make them. Thank you. Hope I will partially answer, but it will come more later on.
Faye, do you want to comment?
Yes, Kuho, thank you for that. And thank you very much, Dr. Ranjita and Dr. Manohara, for those really insightful comments, and also to Professor Hamid. I'll probably comment on the gender aspects, as we were very much involved in the gender mainstreaming. The gender mainstreaming work actually was quite significant in the study. And we went into this strategy mainly because when we first started the project, there was no single objective that's targeted for its gender, which in a way worked for us very well, because gender is a cross-cutting issue. So we have to think very carefully on how can we embed gender and mainstream it in the project when we are dealing with a situation where we have not only the socioeconomic conditions, but there are also the traditional socio-cultural norms that we have to deal with. So our approach was a multi-pronged approach, and I'll talk about this more tomorrow in the session on capacity building. But we have a multi-pronged approach, and it was a learning process. So we started, for example, where we found that, yes, we are including women, but it's very in peripheral areas, like when we're doing, for example, FGDs and stuff like that. But in the actual activities, there's limited women. So we made actions on that. So we did some very proactive actions. For example, we had a affirmative action where we set quotas to make sure that women are included. We had gender champions. We had a gender focal person, because we believe that we need to put in, apart from the gender awareness, which we did first with the project, but it was multi-step, not just within the researchers, because we had to start with the researchers, because if we don't have that good understanding and ownership of gender mainstreaming issues, then it will not work. Everybody has to be supportive that we have to include gender and be aware of that. And we were very fortunate that our program manager, John Dixon, and then Dr. Eric Kuttner were also very supportive of gender. That makes a big difference. So having those, and gender champions are not just women. In fact, we have very strong male gender champions as well. And the focal person, and Mahesh, and TP, and then later on Brendan, they're all supportive of the gender. And I think the biggest impact really is telling. If you look at the presentations today with the partners, all of them talked about gender being important and how they have mainstreamed it. So we can feel somehow vindicated that apart from the numbers, and tomorrow I'll explain why it is critical to count the numbers, because that's the starting point. That's not the end. If you don't try to increase participation, how can you include them? But counting the participation makes people accountable. So, there are a lot of strategies. I don't want to talk too much about it because I will be repeating myself tomorrow. But yeah, but we have seen
from just like, surface saying gender to really embed the gender. And that's why I think we had these 50 case studies, more than 50 actually, but we just selected a few case studies of the voices of women. And when we say also voices of women, but when we look, we wanted to make sure they're included, but the gender actually look at both men and women. Because we should not forget that gender means men and women. We had to make sure that we reach that initial target of 30%. And in fact, towards the end of the project, we were hitting 50% in most activities, not just in the FGDs. So, yeah, so I'll talk more about that tomorrow. Thanks.
Thanks, thanks, Faye. I'm going to insert myself into the SRFSI team and answer one of your questions, Ranjita, about interactions between the three countries. There were regular interactions. The annual meetings were planned in such a manner that each was held in one country or the other. So everybody traveled, they interacted, they saw the field work, and I think they have forged very excellent collaborations and relationships. Now you can, Brendan talked about how Nepali farmers are going to Kuch Bihar to learn how different systems work. The researchers are collaborating in different papers, publications. So that's my 2-bit in terms of there's very strong relationship between the three country researchers and development agencies. Brendan, I hope you didn't mind my interjection. And I would like to ask Christian and Kate if they had any specific questions.
They've both wrote in the chat that they don't have specific questions and they'll join us again tomorrow. Kuhu.
Okay, so now can we open it up for 5 minutes, Brendan?
I would
3?
say I'm happy to stay on the line for as long as people want to discuss this session. If you have to go, then go, but otherwise we can continue as long as people want to talk, or at least I'll be here for as long as people want to talk.
Apurva wants to clarify one query.
Okay, thank you, Kuhu. Professor Hamid has raised one question, that is the particularly the scaling activities was less at Malda, but that is not true. Scaling was more at Malda than Kuch Bihar, particularly the surface seeding. That's why we have reached 40,000 hectare. If you see at Rangpur and other places, you see that probably it is 1,000 hectare or less, I think. But in West Bengal, we have reached more than 40,000 hectare. That is my submission.
Thank you, Apurva. Are there any, Eric?
Thank you, Kuhu. Just some quick remarks. First, that was really very well organized and very high quality presentations from everyone. Very informative and concise in the framework here. That's really good. I just have a remark that we cannot always control the evolution of the context, and so I'd be interested in comments from people who have been involved in Nepal about the sort of timing of these innovations which took place, because it's quite clear from the talk of Dr. Ramkrishna Shrestha that there was a bit of misfortune in terms of timing, and that's really nothing that could be controlled about that. So the fact that the country was in the middle of a political change, which was a really long-ranging, far-reaching in terms of consequences. So can the people involved in Nepal comment on what they see happening next, and whether the situation has stabilized, make it easier now to move forward, or things like that? Thank you.
Do we have Ram?
I think we have Pragya Shrestha, I thought I saw, representing from DOA at the moment.
Or maybe Brandon?
Oh no, Ram is also here. I can see Ram. Ram, would you like to speak?
I'm sorry, I missed the question. Can you please repeat that one more time for me?
Yes, I was just reflecting that at the time that a lot of information was generated by SRFSI on the benefit of CA, it happened that in Nepal there were lots of changes in the system, which made it maybe less conducive to policy and adoption and further activities. And I wonder what's happening now, whether those changes are now stabilized and is there a way forward?
Thank you, Erika. In fact, I was thinking of talking about that day after tomorrow in our policy convergence session. But you have raised the very pertinent questions. As I briefly highlighted in today's presentation as well, the DOA component was quite small. You know, many times money doesn't matter, but what happens is with the help of that project framework, you can onboard the very important stakeholders and sensitize them. And it's not like that we didn't do that, we did, but that was somehow not sufficient, especially when we were going through the transition, you know, with the federal system in place. Before, there was a district unit called District Agricultural Development Office that was terminated, and somehow we lost the momentum there. So that was one reason why we haven't been that much successful in scaling, you know, our scaling endeavors. But as you are raising questions, what next now? I'm very hopeful. I'm very hopeful in the sense that I see a lot of scope of scaling, provided that we receive some kind of technical support from CIMIT, from STIP 3 or something like that. Because what I'm seeing here is that money is not a problem at all. So the problem is how you take on board the policymakers. So I see some kind of gap there. So, for example, on a lighter note, whenever we talk to our higher officials, they usually don't tend to listen to us. But at the same time, if you or some kind of projects or some kind of initiatives engage them in the dialogue, so the likelihood of them listening to you is much higher. I see that. So I'm very much hopeful, but we need to put some extra efforts if we want to continue our scaling efforts in Nepal. I hope I have answered your questions. If not all, the partly then.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'll jump in quickly and say I really agree with Ram about the potential in Nepal. What we learned from roadmaps was that there are all these different actors at the different levels, from farmers to cooperatives to the provincial governments to the national level. So there is a lot of potential there. It's still trying to work through who does what, where are the mandates, but there is a huge potential there if the right set of circumstances and right partnerships can be formed.
Okay, I think this is the last one we'll take from Professor Das. KK, if you can do it in 2 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Kuhu. Actually, I am just supplementing the answer given by Dr. Pei regarding the Omen Empowerment, because some questions from the reviewers have already come regarding this. So I want to supplement here is that regarding participation, one I can tell is that the tragedy of the female workers that has been reduced due to this project implementation CA in our field, at least in West Bengal experience, we can tell that one. This is number one. Number two is that due to the saving of time, now women are coming, as you have seen, different entrepreneurship take up. The example is the seedling factory, the women are leading that one. And this is increasing in West Bengal field. And number three, what I can tell you is that not only in participation, what we have seen in West Bengal scenario is that when the project was starting, the Omen was very much feeling shaky, not to come forward. And in the decision-making process, they were not big encounter. But at the end of the project, what we are seeing is that the Omen are coming in decision-making. They're leading the men to come forward and take up the CASI technology. This is, I think, to my mind, as a socio-economic, this is a great achievement of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, KK. I think if people want to exit because we are past the time, you please feel free to do so. And if there is any more pressing questions, we will take them. Otherwise, Brendan, I think I would suggest that we call today's session to a close.
Great. Thank you so much, Kuhu, for your moderation, and thanks for the questions coming from everybody and the further inputs. I think today was a great day. We have so much to celebrate, and as we've seen by the reviewer questions, we have so much more to give them and to explain about the project. So it's a good 2 half days coming up. We'll start again at the same time tomorrow, and we'll be looking more at capacity development initiatives. And then we have our science session where we have 3-minute video abstracts. I'm definitely looking forward to that because it's impossible that anybody in this meeting can have read all of SRFSI's academic publications. So this is a great way to really learn about different ones. So looking forward to tomorrow. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining today.